Hello, and welcome to a new episode of Talking Snooker with Phil Haig and Nick Metcalf. Once again, talking about the game we all love.
We are, and we're hearing a bit of a break in the professional tour. Anyway, there's always snooker going on somewhere, but no main tour action at the minute. So we thought we'd go through a bit of correspondence and catch up with some somber stuff, but some nice stuff as well, hopefully.
Very much so, Phil. Indeed, we're going to be delving into the old post bag. And of course, we are still thinking so much about the sad news of the loss of John Virgo. And you've been kind enough to send some of your tributes in. So that will be the main feature of this particular episode, but we got to you on various other matters as well coming up soon. But JV, the wonderful JV, leads the way. And let's go straight to it, shall we? And to Mark Williams, first of all, who says, Hello, Nick and Phil. Firstly, I enjoy all of your writings on Metro and Sporting Life and all the updates you give us daily on X. Your work is much appreciated, and of course, this podcast, my joint number one favourite. I don't often email you on here, as I figure you'll have the same audience as Dave Hendon. Well, we have a bigger audience than Dave Hendon, generally, don't we? No, we don't. What am I saying? Who I sometimes email from time to time. I've also sent this email on to Dave at the Snooker Scene podcast, but thought JV is worthy of a mention here, and hopefully someone new will hear these ramblings of mine. Thought I'd share a few words on my encounters with the gentleman that was JV. I first met John one quiet night in the hotel bar in Sheffield. I just arrived that day, and I must admit I had a few, and I spied John at the very empty bar getting a drink. I said, Excuse me, it's a pleasure to meet you, John. It was immediately obvious just how down to earth he was, and he immediately smiled, and we had a right good chinwag about the snooker. I think it was his night off from commentating, and he seemed genuinely pleased to be chatting to a fan. He then said, Look, you're in luck tonight. There's Joe Perry. He'd like a chat with you too. Joe had nothing but praise for John and said how he was learning the commentary from the best. Just prior to going to chat with Joe, I said to John, It's my daughter's birthday tomorrow. Any chance you could record a quick video message? Again, he seemed delighted and recorded a quite lengthy message. To top it all off, he even managed to end it by fitting in his catchphrase, Where's the cue ball going? It was so nice of him, and we were so chuffed he'd done that for her, and I'll cherish this clip forever. Having again met him since and thanked him numerous times for his kindness, John, always the gentleman, was so laid back. I hope he knew how chuffed we were. I'm sure he did. He's been around so long now, it's like you sort of knew him, and it's the passing of a dear old friend. JV, you are fondly remembered. Keep up the good work, fellas. Your busy schedule and efforts don't go unnoticed and are much appreciated. All the best, Mark. And that's the thing. John will have done so many things like that. I know he will. I saw him do it. Little messages, you know, even if it's just an autograph or these days with those, videos for people. And for John, that's probably a nice thing that he feels, but the impact it has is just Mark saying what a fond memory it is. That's what he was like. I said it on BBC News when I went on the day. He was an everyman. He talked to everyone.
Mm.
That was one of John's many marvelous qualities.
Yeah, definitely. It makes such a massive difference. People are always a bit nervous going to talk to sort of celebs. And if they're just, that people aren't expecting a lot really. They just need to be nice and normal. And John was definitely nice and normal. I love his move there as well, just saying, just roping Joe Perry in as well. Like, look at him, bring him in over here.
Oh
That's
yeah.
good stuff. And that would have been an extra treat for Mark there, getting to speak to Joe as well. Another lovely man. Here's the next message from my right elbow. I'm in my early 40s and I don't know snooker without John Virgo. His voice on commentary helped me relax and enjoy every shot, frame, match, and tournament he covered. I love the BBC's coverage of snooker, and it's because of John. To me, he was and always will be the voice of snooker. I'm just grateful that he was still working at such an age. His passion for snooker was so strong that it still excited him after all those years. He had such a beautiful affection for the game, and that passion and affection was contagious. We all got our one last "Where's the cue ball going?" during the Masters. For as long as we all live, we'll be hearing John excitedly call out those famous 5 words in our heads as the white ball rolls towards a gaping pocket. Such a sad loss to snooker, to broadcasting, and to British sport and entertainment. Not only will there be a John Virgo shaped hole in the snooker scene, but there'll be a John Virgo shaped hole left in this entire world that won't ever be filled. John was truly one of a kind. Good night, JV, and God bless you. Well, that was a lovely message.
It was a lovely message, absolutely. And you're right about those phrases. I was joined by Daniel Clark on Radio Snooker. He mentioned it. I haven't played my mate Sea Beach for a long while, but whenever we did, we used to do it. Others too as well. But just say those. Me and you probably do it from time to time, don't we? Tony Mio Trophy is very serious, of course, but I think we'll occasionally. Is there a gap? There's always a gap, and you know the things that happen. And I think it was the variations on that used to crack up me and my friends. Gary Moss is another one that loves JVs and his phrases. We used to joke about, it wouldn't just always be the things that happened on the 12 per 6, which was the main part of it. He'd venture off in a brilliant way and say, oh, what drama we're seeing tonight here. Great, this old theatre. It's only 12 per 6. And, if so, see you laughing now. If me and you said it's only 12 per 6, it would be like, oh, yeah. But John Virgo says it with that incredible voice, that born entertainer of his. And it's just hilarious. It's only 12 per 6. He just had such an extraordinary one-off way about him. And that's a very nice message from you. Thank you very much indeed. And Simon G next says, a seismic loss to the snooker world with someone that I'd say was jointly responsible, along with Dennis Taylor, of course, you mean, for adding the vital magic ingredient and kick-starting the sport into life. RIP JV. Well, they were part of that time when all those guys really kick-started it into sport, into life in a way. Those 70s guys, they were the trailblazers, really. And I must admit, I did message you a while back, didn't I? And said, yeah, I don't think I hope it doesn't sound corny. I don't think it does sound corny. I think people will know what I mean. In a way, Dennis becomes more precious now, doesn't he? Even more precious. I thought that when that lovely BBC Wales feature. We've always thought there's a preciousness about Dennis, of course, but although they were wonderful separate people, of course, they were a marvelous double act. Dennis Taylor and John Virgo, and it's like half of that famous double act has gone. They were sold separately and always will be, but they were sold as a package as well, weren't they? With their great camaraderie together, they've been doing it so long. They both had that great exhibition entertainment sort of comparing about them. John more than Dennis, but Dennis has got it as well. So yeah, it's just lovely to think of that they had such a wonderful life together. It's given me a lot of comfort, and I hope it gives people that know John a lot better than I do comfort as well to think about his wonderful life, and just makes me laugh now just thinking about that. I've seen a couple of exhibitions with them, and yeah, you'd heard a lot of them before, but they just had such an effervescent way, and a way that their patter was unrivaled, Phil. And I know you'd have seen the same thing. It just they had a way. Within 2 or 3 minutes, they had the crowd eating out the palm of their hands, and they sort of never let go of the crowd all night, eh?
Oh, big time, like proper raconteurs. You don't really get that so much from sportsmen nowadays. Still just got a bit serious, not just snooker. I think in general, sportsmen, even sort of the entertaining ones in terms of their style of play, they're not sort of all round showmen like you got in those sort of old school snooker players because they had to be because they were making a living as much from exhibitions and stuff as they were from tournaments. So it was all part of the gig. So I'm not really having a go at modern sports people. It's just a different world. But yeah, no, they were superb at it, and that takes some doing. That's not just because you needed to make money out of exhibitions that you can be good at that. They were the best at it, and that's why they sort of had such long, brilliant careers. And Dennis obviously still going. And yeah, I think that there's old guys who old school guys who've been around a long time. There's been times where they sort of got a bit of criticism, just they've been here a long time, and there's been talk about should you move on, more modern voices. But yeah, I think like you say, when things like this happen, you think, no, we need to treasure these guys. Well, we've still got them. We don't always need to move on. So yeah, that's right about the Venice being precious. I agree with you there. So next one here, William Callahan. It's hard to think that we won't hear John's voice anymore. Met him twice, really lovely guy, thinking of his family and many friends. Yeah, no, I agree. It's the hard thing. I mean, the other message from before saying I've never experienced snooker without John Virgo. That's me as well, my age.
Mm.
Just always been there. So it is very strange to think of it without him.
Very much so, Phil. It really is. Yeah, couldn't add to that at all. You know, it's totally right the way you say it. Steve Hayden next. Totally gutted. We've lost the last big voice of snooker's golden age. It will never be the same again. Will be sadly missed and leaves a hole that nobody can fill. Rest in peace. Well, something that's come to my mind there, and I don't think I said this. If I have, repeating it, it's one of those things. But that word gutted, I was thinking, in a way, I wouldn't say it's a slack word, but it's not a word we naturally write in our game. For example, if we were writing a story or wanted to write a nice bit of prose, I don't think we'd use the word gutted too often, or even maybe say it if we were describing something. But it's totally right in this case, I think. I heard it. Ronnie said it, I think, posted it on social media the morning of we heard John Virgo had died about gutted. I heard Kyron on television, I think during the Welsh Open, say he was gutted. I said it myself. I said, I'm totally gutted that John Virgo's died. And there's just something about it just feels like the kind of word that makes sense in this context. Because of course we're greatly saddened. There's a poignancy about it, but I'm just gutted that I will not see John Virgo again. Will not hear him again. And I hope that sounds like the right thing to say. I hope it does. But there's just something about it. It's not the nicest, prettiest word in the language, but sometimes you've just got to say from what comes from within, and gutted
Mm.
sort of says it all in a way.
Yeah, for sure. And it sort of, it has that feeling about sort of being sick to your stomach at first when you hear that sort of news, and that's what I think a lot of people felt. Yeah, no, you're dead right on that. Paul Barnsley here, friend of the podcast. Well, we say no. No, actually, I can't bestow that on people, but a strong acquaintance of the podcast will say.
Well,
Such sad news.
we wouldn't turn him away if we were in a
No,
pub
no.
and Paul Barsley said, do you lads want to fancy me, Johnny for a drink?" We're not going to say no. You're not a friend of the podcast. We'll say,
No,
"Yeah,
absolutely.
we'll break bread with you."
We will break bread for sure. Such sad news. He gave us so many of us hours and hours of listening pleasure. I loved his commentary, and together with Hendry, they were the perfect accompaniment to a match. R.I.P. John, and condolences to all of his friends and family. Yeah, I think certainly on the BBC, which is having those guys, JV and Hendry was my favourite duo on there. That was definitely, yeah. If I had to pick two, that was my choice.
It was an unbelievable duo, no question. And I've seen Hendry saying that no one enjoyed commentating alongside more than John. He was just there. They were just dynamite together. He had lots of good duos actually. In fact, the next one references him and Woody Thorne here. So it was to John's credit that he had quite a lot of duos going, if you know what I mean, that worked. Freddie, in fact, here says, without doubt, the best, most charismatic snooker commentator ever. Knowledgeable, amusing, ramped up the drama just at the right time. He was like a comfortable pair of slippers to snuggle down on a winter's day watching the best sport on TV. JV and WT were the best combination. And that's sad to think about. The wasn't too many years ago we lost another incredible character, Woody Thorne. They were great mates. They were great pals, weren't they? John Virgo and Woody Thorne. And yeah, it's what you go back to what you say about treasuring these people. It reminds me of seeing Cliff Thorburn at the Masters when he came in. There was as a presence, Cliff Thorburns in the room. You can just see it. Virgo had that as well, and Willie and all these people. And when we lose them, it's so sad. That's a great combination as well. And yeah, hard to. I think he's a candidate to be the greatest voice, and there'll be different views on that. But hard to disagree. He's the most charismatic snooker
Mm.
commentator ever. I think that's in the bag. I think.
Yeah, Terry was another big loss in commentary as well. I know we hadn't heard him on
Yeah,
commentary for quite a while, but I always
lovely
thought he was
voice.
really great. Yeah, really great. Here's another one, Rocky Man. It's true about talking to anyone. I was walking to the Crucible last year to one of the semis, and John was walking at the same time, so I started chatting to him about the class of '92. We chatted like we were mates. It was the only time I met him for 5 minutes of chat, which is a treasured memory now. R.I.P. John. Yeah, and we've got some nice ones in here, but I bet there's countless stories of exactly that. I imagine floating around. Yeah, and as I say, just those little things that uh, really don't take too much effort. But I bet a lot of people in his position wouldn't necessarily do them. But you could rely on John Virgo to do them.
Yeah, again, you sum it up very well. And listen, we thank you so much for your correspondence. I know that the death of John Virgo has affected everyone that cares about snooker. Of course, it's Very saddening. It wasn't long ago we heard him at the Masters, of course, in January, and just what a marvelous voice he was. Just to repeat, Phil, aren't there next month a couple of events coming up? One is in Ireland at Goffs, that famous venue, which is in Kildare. I've got to get that right. I know we mustn't say it's a Dublin venue, must we? Because Danny will be after us and various other Irish friends and colleagues. And that's the John Virgo Trophy with a number of stars playing in it. And that will actually be on Pluto TV. Bonnie O'Sullivan's playing in that event. Mark Williams, Stephen Hendry, and John Higgins. And an event that I think is much more, even more relevant than that, because I think more people will be able to get to it. And that's the only reason I say that, is at Sheffield Cathedral. It's on April the 16th at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, isn't it? 1 p.m. on April the 16th at Sheffield Cathedral. We'll remind you about it nearer the time. I know you're going to get there, Phil. I'm going to pretty certain to be getting there as well. It's going to be an afternoon, I know, when many people will be sharing so many memories. I'm sure there'll be events in Sheffield afterwards, after that as well. And yeah, and I'm sure some of the tunes that we remember John by and just those great impressions. And so if you can get to that Sheffield Cathedral, at April the 16th. And yeah, we saw the applause, didn't we, in Llandudno, Phil? That was very heartfelt, and some of the sort of package we saw on television there. And each person, and I said this at the time, everyone's got a John Virgo story. And I noticed that even people that aren't into snooker, people in my own family, friends of mine, they've all got a John Virgo story. They might not have even been sports fans. A lot of it was Big Break, of course, but it might have been Panto. Oh, I remember him with his big, colourful waistcoat. Everyone, he transcended this sport, and we have a few like that transcend the sport, but maybe never, no one quite ever in his category. He was just a huge one-off, and of course the depth, the old saying they use, which I'm always been a strong advocate of, really, which is grief is the price you pay for love, and that's kind of the thing, the depth and weight of power of these messages and tributes says it all about how esteemed he was.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, there's not too many in the snooker world that will get the outpouring of love that John's getting. Yeah, that's going to be. Hopefully, it's going to be a really nice, fun day, sort of in sort of tragic circumstances. But I'm sure just the humour of hearing JV stories all afternoon will be good. I've been meaning to ask. I know Rob Walker's been a driving force behind that, so I've been meaning to ask for any more details. Whether you need to get there a bit before 1 o'clock or anything, but we'll give you some more info when we find it out. But yeah, if you can get there, definitely come along because I think it should be a special afternoon.
And just to say as well, I'm glad you said that because I would have forgotten. I think Rob's actually put a message out on social media. People can
Yeah, that's right.
email an address, can't they, with their John
Yeah.
stories and anecdotes, which I'm sure there'll be so many.
Mm.
I know they'll be collating a lot of them and using some of them. I know at that service. So do check Rob Walker's Twitter feed. I'm sure that'll be repeated elsewhere as well. That's coming up then on April the 16th at Sheffield Cathedral. And thank you to everybody involved. I know there's lots of messages on our Twitter page as well, but we really do appreciate those. And of course, we say to John Virgo. Just thanks so much for the memories. We'll continue remembering that great snooker figure, of course, in the times to come. Phil, I'll just have a name check now, and then we'll return with our other correspondence. You are listening to Talking Snooker with Phil Haig and Nick Metcalf. Hello to you, it's Talking Snooker here, and we're catching up with your views. And let's go to them then, shall we? And first of all, to Ben Winstanley, who I know is a sports journalist and a very good one, and says, "Hello, Nick and Phil. Big fan of the podcast. Thank you for your continued coverage of the sport. I have mostly enjoyed Channel 5's coverage of the Players' Championship, but it has reminded me of one of my snooker commentary bugbears. Why do so many co-commentators seem to want to say any miss could be a turning point in this match?" And that's in quotes. "I would argue that one, most matches don't actually have a turning point, and the player who is ahead in the match at that stage often goes on to win anyway. Two, quite often the beneficiary of the so-called turning point then misses a pot themselves, so the previous miss can no longer be considered a turning point. And three, by definition, any miss could conceivably become a turning point unless the frame is already won and therefore saying so is unnecessary. Do you agree? And if so, is there anything you can do to help stamp out the gratuitous use of the phrase regards Ben? I don't think anything I can really do, or we can do personally, to stamp out the gratuitous use of the phrase. But yeah, I mean, they're just, I guess when those guys talk as much as they do, you're going to creep up. And God, I mean, how many times did I say, you know? I've cut that out, I think now, but then I've replaced it with, of course. I listened to him the other week and I kept saying, of course, every 2 minutes. Oh, this and that, and of course this, and of course that. So I think, however accomplished we may be, and clearly a lot of these guys are extremely accomplished, you're gonna repeat things. Yeah, I know. Now I think about it, you do hear quite a lot. Some are more obvious than others, and you know, well, I don't remember whether they said it at the time or not, actually, because I may not have even had volume for the moment. Oh, all I heard was Darren Morgan say "wow," actually, because I wanted to check. But that moment in the World semi-final when Wu Yisa missed that blood, they could have said that then, couldn't they? That would have
Mm,
been a prime example of a turning point, and it
yeah.
was a turning point. But yeah, they can't all be, so it's overused. Does that not much gets on your wick, Phil? Does that get on your wick?
No, but I understand the point though, because it probably has said a lot more than if you look back. If you try and think of like pots that were actual turning points, just one pot, like that seizure we miss against Luca when he was miles ahead. Was that on the green? Like that. That
Oh yeah.
that generally was like a turning point. Um, and yeah, it's probably someone should go back. Or maybe AI can do this. You could go and check out how many times a turning point being claimed has actually been a turning point because it's probably quite a low percentage. But at the same time, you sort of, I do get why people say it, because there are certain misses that feel like quite crucial times, and you leave the other guy in the balls. Just feel like it could change the whole match because momentum swings are big. But yeah, it's probably one of those things that, well, as soon as you've thought about it, every time it's said, it'll wind you up. So Ben may well have just put that in the head of everyone else listening to this now, and we're all lumbered with it. But yeah, I think another one that gets said a lot that I've noticed is like, oh, this is a big frame. And like they're all worth the same. They're all worth
Yeah,
the same
yeah,
amount of
yeah.
frames. I understand it. It's usually like the one before an interval, whether it's 6-2 or 7-1, and that feels like a huge difference. But they're all big. They're all the same amount of big, really, apart from the last one.
I think you get loads of that at the Crucible in particular. And again, you'd excuse it more. It's the biggest tournament, but there are so yeah. It's nearly always the one before the interval. It's nearly always the one at the end of the session. So by instinct, or by virtue of that, you've already got two crucial frames. And you get a lot more sprinkled as well because of the scoreline. So yeah, you and half get a lot of big frames. And I suppose when at the World Championship, I mean, it's first to 10, then 13, then 17, then 18. But, so you get a bit of time to, you know what I mean. But there's a lot of there's a lot of big frames. Yeah, it's a good point you make.
But yeah, like you say, I mean, snooker is one of those sports where that is long. There's a lot of talking to do, so you can certainly forgive some repetition or some occasionally slipping into cliche when you don't necessarily mean it.
Indeed. And now you've got some nice words from Brian
Oh,
Campbell.
a trio. Always a pleasure to hear from Brian. Dear Nick and Phil, it was great to see Phil appear on Channel 5's coverage of the Players' Championship last week. He came across really well, looking confident, composed, and as if he'd been doing telly on a regular basis for years. Hopefully, he'll be popping up on our screens again in the future. Kind regards, Brian. Well, that's very kind of you. Yeah, no, hadn't done much before, but very much enjoyed it, and hopefully, I'll be popping up again at the Tour Championship if all goes to plan. Similar stuff, and I'll be looking forward to doing that.
Good man. Well, thank you very much indeed to Brian for that. And we move on to Tony, who says, surely Channel 5 won't use RefCam again. I haven't heard from one snooker fan who thought it was any good. Also, the adverts coming in during playing the final was a fiasco. I don't ever remember that happening on ITV. Happy to be corrected. Well, being a frightful nerd, I don't know if it happened in snooker. I don't remember that, but it did happen in an FA Cup replay. Do you remember when Everton beat Liverpool? Because I actually remember what was the subject I went on now. I did a sort of feature And it was great, famous moments that weren't live on the telly. Telly just missed. And someone said to me, it sounds a bit arrogant saying you're the best man for the job. I think I probably was that day because I was probably about 20 years older than everyone else on the desk to begin with. And one of them was Graham Gooch, who the BBC missed getting to 300 in a great test match against India in 1990 because they went to a horse race. It's often forgotten this. Oh, it wasn't a news bulletin, it was a horse race. They missed Gooch getting to 300. Brilliant test, by the way. If you ever want to see, Phil, and I know you're a big cricket man, England, India. I remember we were on a summer holiday with the family in Weymouth, boiling hot summer all round, actually, Italian 90 summer. Incredible test, right? Where Gooch got 333. He got 100 in the second innings. Azharuddin got a brilliant 100 for India. And loads of other stuff happened. In any other match, the biggest thing that happened would be this. India needed 24 to beat the follow on, okay? Eddie Hemmings, you might remember him at that note, spinner, bowling to Kapil Dev. Kapil Dev got it 4 sixes in a row. That was to beat the follow on. Seriously, it
Yeah.
was the most extraordinary test match. Anyway, that was one thing. Another one, I think they managed to miss the winning putt of the 87 Ryder Cup in memory. So, and yeah, so it happens in telly. You know, it was annoying. I know it happened for a lot of people. It happened for you during the final, but no, it may not happen in ITV Snooker. But suggested. Oh, I know another one it happened for, but it was for HD viewers when England scored against America. Gerrard, I think, in the South
Really?
Africa World Cup. Yeah, the ITV HD viewers went off and they missed an England goal. So it happens. It happens. And World Cups are bigger than that snooker was, if you get my drift. So, especially in England game at a World Cup. So these things will happen. It was annoying though. And ref cam, yeah. Well, I think you pointed out that Channel 5 themselves put out a social media thing asking. So I think they sort of know that not every innovation is going to work. I'm not saying this won't work, but to most people's eyes, it hasn't quite been worth it yet. My feeling is very simple. It's a small playing area. I said that before. I can't see it really coming into its own. When we get great replays, there was something that happened a few days ago. I think I may have messaged you about it. I messaged a few other people as well, where it was a brilliant Oh, I know what it was. There was a touching ball, which Neil Robertson thought was a push shot. That was it.
Oh, yeah.
Who
Yeah.
who played that? And it wasn't a push shot. The replay showed it after about three replays. I thought, well, if we're getting such good replays, I can't remember who it was now. It might have been Jack Jones actually.
Ah,
Um,
it was. Yeah, yeah, that was it.
um, it if we're getting that good replays from normal camera angles, how's ref cam going to be good? But anyway, that's a lot of talk from me. Please make sure to now sort of balance it out. Quite a lot of talk from you.
Yeah, I think we said about RefCam before. Not sure. It added loads, and also, but sort of when you thought it was gonna be interesting to see, then the ref moved and it sort of jolted it about a bit. I think it was nice just being added into montages with some unusual
Mm.
angles of the players sort of shaking hands or the ref going up to do the toss of the coin. But whether it's worth sort of putting on the ref all tournament to get those little shots to know. But I'm sure they'll be working on it to see what they could do differently. But even if they don't use it again, why not give it a go? Sure. And yeah, the adverts thing, we spoke about that. Uh, yeah, I've not spoken to anyone from the TV about that, but I'm certain it was not meant to happen. You know, those things that you mentioned, that was sort of unfortunate timing where they had to cut away to do something else a lot of the time. I'm sure they didn't mean to put the adverts as they were doing then. It seemed very chaotic from my view. And weirdly, I didn't notice it happen at any point other than just the end of the final. So I'm sure it wasn't intentional, but it happened at a pretty inopportune time. But yeah, like you said at the time, it would have been a shame to sort of sully the entire week of broadcasting with what happened, which at the end and the last sort of hour, which was annoying. But having said that, in the next message, I think Neil Caesar is about to do that. He says Channel 5 should never be allowed to cover another tournament. Absolutely outrageous to go to ads during frames is totally unacceptable. They don't even do that in the Advert Fest NFL. I'm boiling with rage. Um, Fair enough. I don't think I've ever boiled with rage, but I'd hate to join you there, Neil. But yeah, it was annoying, no doubt. But as I say, I'm pretty sure it was a mistake, which they'll endeavour to fix next time.
I don't think you're really a boiling with rage person, but do you know what? I know you love your football, and I thought the closest you've come, you must have been maybe not boiling, but you must have been simmering at Oakwell over the days when, a couple of bad defensive howlers from your beloved Barnes must have been simmering with rage.
Oh, I used to actually. That actually turned my going to watch Barnsley sort of turned my entire personality because I used to get quite annoyed. It used to sort of ruin my weekend annoyed, and I just thought I'm stopping doing this. And since then, I've sort of much more in control of my emotions. So yeah, you're right. Barnsley did make me simmer at least with rage, but no longer.
That's brilliant. There's a story in that. Barnsley SC changed my personality by Phil Haig. Yeah, I like that. Um, Good man. Let's move on. We've done about half an hour. That's about right, I think. We're a little bit more. Graham, now it's true that the crowds in Llandudno for the Welsh Open are good, but the tournament has always been a pretty well supported event wherever it's played. The great Welsh snooker players have always come from the south. It doesn't feel like the event has a proper connection with Wales in Llandudno. That reminds me, actually, I did put up one of my broadcasts on Reddit, and there was another point about that I didn't mind actually. I kind of quite liked, and I think it was this person was generally saying that there are visitors, a lot of visitors from England, and I was thinking, well, that's a kind of fair point. But look, if the tournament was in Cardiff, I expect there'd be a lot of visitors from the southwest of England for that, to Bristol and
Mm.
what have you. Let me just read it out. I don't know how relevant it is. This is it. This has only come through actually recently. The issue with the North Wales coast, Llandudno, and east is probably the least Welsh part of Wales. This is from someone called Beautiful P on Reddit. The accent is more like northwest England. ITV Granada used to claim the North Wales coast, and people would typically point their aerials at the Winter Hill transmitter to pick up English TV. That was even before S4C started, when that practice became even more popular, so they could pick up UK Channel 4 instead. That's quite nerdy stuff, isn't it? But I think the principle is, look, it's one of those where I said before, it's sort of none of my business, but then since when has things that are not our business stopped us from talking about them, if you know what I mean? We're not Welsh. Um, People say to me, you from the North Wales, everything has always been in South Wales. International rugby, international football, all the big events. Finally something in North Wales and you're complaining. People in South Wales say, well, nearly all the great players have come down here. The real hotbed of snooker's down here. Nearly all the clubs are down here. We don't feel a proper connection with it's ours from us and Llandudno. It doesn't feel like it has enough connection for the Welsh Open. And tied in with all that, the crowds are brilliant. The event is brilliantly staged, so that almost feels like the ultimate answer. But I find it an interesting one. I say we're distant from it because we're not Welsh, but I still get it. I get it to the best of my capabilities, eh?
Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah, I can't really comment really on the proper connection with Wales stuff because I don't know about it closely enough. You have to sort of feel that properly. But yeah, I feel bad for the all the Welsh players because they want that to be their home event, and the trappings of a home event are that it's full of your mates and family there cheering you on. And I think a lot of them don't have that there because it's what is 4+ hour drive away, so you don't get the support that you'd hope from your home event. So I understand that that's disappointing. But yeah, as long as the crowds are good, and I think they seem to have a good deal on World Snooker because they've been
Mm.
hosting. That isn't the only event they've hosted there. Um, so yeah, I don't think it'll change necessarily. But yeah, as I said before, it'd be nice to have one in South and North Wales. That'd be great. It's been such a hotbed, the country as a whole. For snooker. It's been huge for snooker. So it's the kind of place that deserves two tournaments. If we could squeeze another one in somewhere.
Indeed, we're nearly at
Um,
the end. Snooker crazy next.
yeah, here we go. I think people need to lay off the Woo Yizzer predictions a bit. Murphy and O'Sullivan saying he'll be world champion just piles pressure on the young lad. Surely let him enjoy snooker without all the hype. Yeah, I get that. I mean, Mark Allen even said to me in Telford that he thinks Ronnie does that on purpose, talks at people who he sees as a threat.
Mm.
And I've heard that accusation leveled at Ronnie before. Don't know. I don't know if I feel like that in this circumstance, really. Just the age Ronnie's at now and how much he's playing. I really don't think he's trying to sort of take down a young Chinese star, especially because they've like practiced together and he's not coached him, but he has given him advice and worked with him away from the cameras. To then try and sort of sabotage that with comments in the press would be quite mad behavior. So I don't think that's necessarily true in this case, but I wouldn't say it's not true in the case before. Um, but yeah, you know, sticking really high expectations on young players doesn't tend to help, does it? World champion, world number one, you don't get any higher expectations than that. Um, so yeah, it probably doesn't help, but it's also just what happens. You get really exciting young players, and I get that everyone goes, "Oh, just let him play," just don't say these things. But we're biased because we work in the media. But if people didn't get excited about young players and start saying they're going to be really good and do things, what are we supposed to say about them?
Yeah, and I'd go even further than the media on this and say sort of sports fans, maybe this is over the top, but I'm sort of thinking, what's the point of being a sports fan if you don't see a brilliant young sports person and start eulogizing about them, saying they could do this and they could do that? I mean, that's sort of the point of it, isn't it? I mean, look, he doesn't strike me as the kind of guy that's, suffering too much under pressure. He just seems to thrive on it all. Yeah, I'm a bit like you. I didn't hear Mark Allen say that, but yeah, I wouldn't have put that past Ronnie. Of course, I've heard a few cynical people say that. A funny tangent to go, but it reminds me a bit of Pele, the wonderful late Pele. You remember how he always used to make dreadful predictions, and if you ever clocked that before
Yeah.
World Cups, particularly, he never picked the right teams to win it. And it would be a bit like, oh, you don't want a tip from Pele, and it became quite true. It seemed quite funny at first, but it's true. The Pele predictions weren't great. One of the greatest footballers, if not the greatest footballer ever, of course, an unbelievable icon of sport. A funny sort of thing to go off, but people have said to me quite cynically that Ronnie's got quite a lot of those predictions wrong, actually. I mean, the famous one, of course, is Maguire. Maybe that's unfair, but
Mhm.
he did say he dominated, didn't he? And he never did remotely. But there are probably other examples if I went back to look at it. But yeah, with Wu Yisa, I mean, Ronnie's in the autumn of his days now, isn't he? In playing days, of course he is. Yeah, I can't see he's particularly trying to gain an advantage by that. I think that's a bit more genuine on that one. But yeah, interesting that Mark Allen would say he's quite a cute one, isn't he? I say cute in that meaning, if you know what I mean. He's a sly old fox himself, Mark Allen. He doesn't miss much, does he? I've noticed that about him a few times. He'd often go with a different sort of angle. You think, oh, I didn't clock that. Yeah, nice one. That's quite
And he's not afraid to say it as well. I think
not
maybe
afraid
some
to
people
say
would
it.
think that and wouldn't necessarily say that, especially about Ronnie. But fair play that he did.
And he's always stood up to Ronnie. They had that famous clash, didn't they? Well, I forgot what it's about now, but around about
Yeah,
COVID time, was it? They were like, "I'm not getting out your eye line" and all that. And I remember
yeah,
Alan saying afterwards, Ronnie always tries to do that to people. I'm not having it. He's a
yeah,
feisty one, Mark Allen. He's always been
yeah.
like that, and that's one of the reasons why he's been a incredibly successful snooker player. Of course, we finished with some praise, Phil. About bloody time some of that came our way. Callum in Glasgow. Thank you, Phil and Nick, for this podcast. I never miss an episode since I started listening a couple of years ago. Your consistency with sending out episodes and then being of such quality with intelligent and entertaining chat is credit to you both. I'm going to Sheffield in the first week of the World Championship. I'll keep an eye out for you. If I see you, I'll say hello. Best wishes, Callum. Yeah, please do, Callum. I mean, I heard people say before, well, you might have been a bit busy or you didn't want to. So I mean, listen, I mean, less so you. I absolutely love people saying hello to me. So please come up and say hello.
I like it too. That
you,
made me sound
you,
like a monster.
no, you like it too, but I meant to say it sort of well. You're a bit more humble than me. I think you don't quite sort of. I didn't make sense. I sort of like I wouldn't say I walk around like I'm part of the Fab Four, but I definitely saw hello everybody waving and I positively encourage it. Whereas I think you're a bit more low key than me. Is the way I meant to say it. Anyway, so you take over before I dig the hole anymore.
That's probably true. I thought you meant like I would like people saying hello to me, but I do
Yeah,
like
well,
that.
like you're a
Say
massive
hello to me.
diva or something. Not even that.
No,
We do love it.
I say
It's
talk to my
great.
people.
Oh yeah,
No, for sure, Callum, and anyone else. If you see us knocking around Sheffield, come say hello for sure. Always a pleasure to speak to any listeners.
Absolutely. And you know what? When I've been in, yeah, my people talk to your people. They always do that. I mean, when I'm an American people in journalism, they always do that sort of joke. But no, it's a great part of the championship. We say it many times. It's a special part. You see people at all events, but that is a proper congregation of snooker people. And I've mentioned this before as well. What is so great about that championship is just being able to talk snooker because we're
Mm.
quite funny, aren't we? This funny old sport we like, and it's not like football where if I want to talk about football tomorrow morning, I'll go to my local coffee shop and have about 10 conversations, no problem like that. People I know up there, it won't be a problem. I'm talk about the weekend's games. What do you think about Arsenal? What do you think about United? Now, what I now start saying, what do you think about Jack Jones? With the greatest one in the world, most wouldn't, some would, by the way. Let's not do it
Yeah.
down, but not, you know what I mean?
No,
But
exactly. Yeah.
In Sheffield, for however long you're there, and I tend to be there for about 9, 10 days of it out of the 17, just talking snooker morning, noon, and night. What more do you want?
Yeah, no, it is great because especially when you meet someone who's into snooker, like they tend to be really into it. So it's not like sometimes when you chat about football and then you sort of have to dumb down your football chat to beat the standard of, of knowledge they have to an extent. But snooker people just love it so much. I was actually at a kid's party the other day, and someone introduced me to someone who I'd not met, and he just went, "Oh, the snooker man," because they knew that I knew about snooker. We chatted for ages about the snooker. So yeah, no, it's a pleasure to meet snooker people, and that happens all the time. Obviously, at the World Championship.
The snooker man. That's really great, isn't it? Like it, like it. Yeah, we're at the business end now, aren't we? You keep pushing it back. I don't know what you're playing at. You keep saying we're coming up to it. I thought we're definitely in it now, mate. Into
Oh,
March.
definitely.
We got Sheffield soon for the greatest show of them all, of course. Be there next month for the qualifiers. And then, of
Well, that's the thing.
course,
When you can say the World Championships start next month, that's unquestionably the business end, isn't it?
absolutely unquestionably, it's an unimpeachable view. And before that, of course, we got that special event in Manchester, the Tour Championship, and next on the calendar, coming right up, folks, is the World Open, the final event in China this season. So we'll know that you'll all enjoy that. Thank you, Phil. I salute you, and we've had some brilliant views. Let's say finish up and say that we'll all gather, won't we, in April for that John Virgo event, share some stories, share some memories. And as ever with JV, people say, oh, he would have loved it. I didn't know John well, but I know he'd have wanted us to laugh. I know that.
Mm.
And laughter, when it comes to that man, will never be far away, will it? Amid the tears, when there'll be lots of laughter, because he spent his whole life making us bloody laugh.
Yeah, and I think it's really nice that these sort of tributes are rolling on. I think quite often, we get terrible news and there's a day or two of sort of everyone talking about it, and then it sort of peters out a bit. But quite rightly, for a character like John, it's going to keep going and going. I'm sure there'll be some good stuff during the World Championship as well. Um, and yeah, it's all good to see because everyone's felt it so deeply. So yeah, looking forward. Yeah, it's a weird thing to say. I am looking forward to that event. I wish it wasn't happening, but at the
Mm.
same time, I think it will be nice.
I know what you mean. I know exactly what you mean. And thank you, everybody, for your John Virgo tributes and all your correspondence to us in this latest episode here, which is your views. And that includes those special tributes. We'll see you next time. Thanks for your company, everybody. For now, from your old friends, Phil Haig and Nick Metcalf. Cheerio.